Hi guys and gals and kittens, and welcome to the I Need a Magic show. So in this video I'm going to show you something I've spent a couple of hours on working on today. It's going to be associated with an article which you can find a link to in the description of this YouTube video. However, in order to illustrate the point with it, I'm going to have to show you some code here. So now I have Google Chrome Inspect tools up. I've disabled cache. I click refresh. Right. So the chatbot itself, the button, is only 46 kilobytes and 78.7 kilobytes of resources in total. It finishes in 1 second. So it's like really realistic. However, I have an issue, which is if I clear these and I click the chatbot, now at this point it actually initializes reCAPTCHA and Google reCAPTCHA. And Google reCAPTCHA, in lack of a better word, is a hot smoking pile of garbage when it comes to JavaScript. As you can see here now, it just downloaded 743 kilobytes, 1.8 megabytes of resources. Now, of course, not everything is Google reCAPTCHA. There's Showdown, there's Signal R, there's a couple of images, some fonts, it's a socket invocation, etc., etc. However, if I now remove Google reCAPTCHA. So remember, 18 requests, 743 kilobytes of transfer, and 1.8 megabytes of resources. I don't have reCAPTCHA now, right? 700, 1.4 megabytes, 56 kilobytes, and 148 kilobytes of resources. So I just saved 93% of my bandwidth by simply shift delete on Google reCAPTCHA. So now comes the interesting point. How does this work? Is it now unsafe? Can people like invoke it using bot or script kiddies? Can they chat with this particular chatbot now? And actually the answer is no. And the reasons why is because if I just say anything, let me just first clear my request here. If I just say anything here now, hi, then you will see it actually passes in a reCAPTCHA response, but it's actually not a reCAPTCHA response, it's a CAPTCHA response. So I've created my own alternative to Google's reCAPTCHA, which is based upon BlowFish hashing, which effectively becomes proof of work. Why? Because BlowFish hashing is slow. That means that my computer, which is an M3 CPU, spends 0.3 seconds creating this thing. That means if I want to invoke this endpoint a million times, it doesn't matter even if I have a supercomputer. That supercomputer is going to be spending so much CPU resources that it is going to be practically almost impossible. So it still has some amount of bot protection. It's not equally strong as Google reCAPTCHA, admittedly. However, by utilizing highly interesting technique. Let me show it to you by opening up this guy, and then let me just close this guy, and let me do system misc, and then let me show you the JavaScript file here. What this basically does, first of all, it dynamically replaces these guys and the URL and the Unix timestamp. And the Unix timestamp is the number of milliseconds that has passed since 1971, of course. The public key is a secret that only my server is capable of actually generating. It's basically an HMAC that is based upon this particular cloudlet and only this particular cloudlet, right? And then it saves the Unix timestamp into the JavaScript file. So why is that important? Well, if I look now at the sources here, and I find the misc, and I find this file here now, you will see that these values have been substituted, right? And this public key is actually changing. So 20 minutes from now, it's going to be a completely different public key. That means if I generate one public key, I can, at the maximum amount of time, use that same public key for 20 minutes, right? After 20 minutes, it's no longer going to be possible to use. Then I have, and that is based upon the Unix timestamp at the bottom of this file, I have a set timeout that basically updates this key once every 10 minutes, right? It retrieves a new token. right? A new private or a new public key. Then that public key is used to create a BlowFish hash based upon the client's Unix timestamp at the point when the invocation was created and the server timestamp at the point when the key, the public key was created. If the server timestamp is older than 20 minutes, the key is going to be rejected. If the client's timestamp is more than 10 seconds old, the key is going to be rejected. So this allows me to have a stateless solution that does not entirely 100% perfectly eliminate bots, admittedly, but it's good enough, right? First of all, it requires that you're executing code on the client that creates the invocation. That code is so CPU intensive that it becomes practically impossible for any malicious client to generate millions or thousands, for that matter, of HTTP requests, right? Without spending so much time and so much CPU resources that the cost associated with creating every single individual HTTP request becomes so large that it's no longer economically viable to do it, right? It's basically proof of work. It's the same thing that Bitcoin mining is based upon, except instead of hashing over and over again until I get like 5 zeros at the end, I'm basically hashing once, but I'm hashing with BlowFish hashing with the workload that is so significant that on my machine, M3, it takes 0.3 seconds. On an iPhone, it would probably take 1 second or something to simply create that BlowFish hash before it has a valid hash that it can use to invoke the endpoint. Hi. And as you can see, it perfectly works. Now, if I exchange the key, it needs to JIT compile. So if I ask it again, it should be much faster. To 2 seconds, it was done with creating the invocation, and 4 seconds, ChatGPT started answering. Now, if I change, let's say I go into sources, let's say I find this guy, and I find my reCAPTCHA bugger down here, and I set it to, for instance, okay, copy, I go to my console, I paste in. Let me try to do it here instead. Watch. Guess it doesn't matter where I'm doing it. V equal, and then I change it to 6, and then I create an invocation. Hello. Then it's going to fail. And remember, this key is only valid for 20 minutes, and the BlowFish hashing result that is based upon this key is only valid for 10 seconds. That means that at the very least, every single 10 seconds, I need to actually create a new BlowFish hashing before I can re-invoke the server. So it doesn't completely 100% perfectly eliminate bots, but for a low-risk website, it, for all practical concerns, eliminates bots. Because now all of a sudden there's no way to use this in Postman, for instance. You need the ability to execute code, etc., etc. So that alone would like probably eliminate 95% of all bots. And then the CPU requirements for generating a new token for every single invocation towards the server become simply so large that probably most bots will not bother because it's too expensive to actually generate a new token. And let me show you the important parts. Now I'm refreshing. Let me open it again to start out with an empty chatbot. 56 kilobytes. Turn on Google reCAPTCHA. From 56 kilobytes to freaking 751 kilobytes. So, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.